From one incredible and powerful speaker to another, I have the pleasure to invite onto the stage our next keynote speaker, Dr. Comfort Ero. Dr. Comfort Ero was appointed Crisis Group President and CEO in December 2001. Dr. Ero has spent her entire career working in conflict-affected areas. She joins us today on the topic of Horizon of Change and Youth Role in Transitional Times. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Comfort Ero. It's a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for such a warm introduction. And it's very nice to be here and to be in the company of one of Crisis Group's greatest supporter, President of Sharq, Wada Kamfa. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. And I also acknowledge both our ministers sitting on either side of you, the Minister for Youth for Turkey and also the Minister for Environment. It's not easy to follow you, Minister, but you said it all. I'm going to keep my comments brief because we're going to have a Q&A following this as well. But I wanted to sort of put some issues on the table for us for our discussion as well, and also make a plea to WADA that your brothers and sisters in sub-Saharan Africa would like to accompany you in unleashing the potential. So I'd really welcome to see your footprint in a number of other countries south of the Sahara as well. So just to make that plea to you. I also say it, in the midst of the, how shall I say, the crisis that we are also seeing on the continent. My origin is Nigeria, and we do have a youth bulge, but we also have a crisis of youth also on the continent. And as I talk to you, we are seeing the potential that was unleashed in April 2019 in Sudan. We are seeing it being rolled back. We are seeing that those leaders who are struggling to retrench, to go back into their barracks, to go back into their political positions, are resisting the strong push by a group of people who started an important revolutionary change in Sudan. So your forum is vital, even more so today than ever, because in neighboring Sudan is Ethiopia, another difficult, challenging attempt at changing the political system. The real concern there is whether that potential that we saw coming through in 2019 is going to be sustained. The same in the Sahel, which is deteriorating as I speak, and the same also in Southern Africa and in central parts of Africa as well. So your message of unleashing potential resonates beyond your region and goes to other parts of the world. I even say it in relation to Latin America, where we're seeing different kinds of upheavals, different kinds of transitions, different kinds of change. So you have a powerful message that needs to go beyond the region that you were originally established in as well. Now, we're also talking at a time of significant upheaval in the international order as we know it. But the world didn't start in on the 24th of February 2022 of this year with the invasion of Ukraine. The situation the attack, the aggression against Ukraine was pretty bleak and pretty bad. We are talking 10 years after the Arab Spring, and happy anniversary to the forum. But 10 years on from the Arab Spring, there's been tremendous slippage, tremendous retrenchment, and at one level one could ask themselves how much has really changed, or how much regression are we seeing, instead of the unleashing of the potential that we thought the Arab Spring was supposed to be delivering for a number of youthful people across various regions as well. Today, the rules-based order is in a shambles. Multilateralism is under threat. The legitimacy of key institutions that we invested ourselves into are under question today, whether it's the United Nations, whether it's the European Union. I am from London. The Brexit challenge there has also led to questions about the legitimacy of key institutions, of key leadership, and also the potential to ensure a multilateral order as well. At the same time, I'm speaking to you where the international community is overshadowed by what I consider to be the two mega trends of our time. Minister, you started that conversation with the climate change. That is the existential threat of our time. It knows no boundaries, it belongs to no regions, it belongs to no group. It is our threat, it's everybody's threat. The other threat, as I speak to you, is a pandemic. We talk about building up better. What did the pandemic expose? What did the international cooperation expose? It showed that there was a lack of international cooperation. It showed also the inequality that we've always knew was there. It also showed just how inequitable the international community could be in the midst of so-called distribution of vaccine as well. So while we claim to be building back better, what we see in reality in a number of regions that we work in is that there's been an unevenness in the way in which the international cooperation folds out as well. And I think that's got to be a topic that we've got to unpack today as we talk about unleashing potential. What kind of multilateral order, what kind of multilateral systems do we want when nations themselves build up bridges instead of helping societies across different parts of the world as well? Another issue I think that we need to discuss also today is how the invasion into Ukraine has exposed the limits of diplomacy and deterrence. It has also exposed, and I say it as an organization whose mandate is conflict prevention, it also exposed the limits of prevention. It also exposed the limits of early warning. It also exposed the limits of states proclaim, preach, and articulate prevention. And yet at the same time, we are in the midst of a war whose boundaries, a war whose consequences have gone way beyond the actual area of that conflict. This conflict has had rippling effects through all parts of the world. And my one big takeaway from the invasion in Ukraine is that it has also exposed and shown also that the West has not been able, the tragedy of Ukraine is that the West has not been able to win everybody's views on this crisis. We right now, President Wadakamfa, we are now in a situation of a non-aligned redux. We have a situation today where the West itself has been unable to articulate a clear message where it can gather support from across nations in a cause that it says is in defense of the international rules-based order. A number of people clearly do not buy into that rules-based order because what they see is hypocrisy, double standards, a failure of the system that did not support them in the time of their crisis also. So we also have another challenge today, how to rebuild that system where people have lost faith in that system. Or do we need to rewire that system to also deal with the realities of a number of countries that haven't bought into that narrative? So while there is a lot of disinformation, it's also an indictment that despite the aggression that we see in Ukraine, that narrative has not necessarily changed the mindsets or the views of a number of countries around the world for different reasons. There are self-interest at play, but there's also, as I said, the hypocrisy, double standards at play, and the fact that when we wanted your help in the name of COVID, and in the name of climate change, you were not there to support our cause. When we needed your help in addressing refugees and migrants, you put up borders instead of helping our refugees. when we needed your support in terms of dealing with poverty, in terms of dealing with the grave humanitarian situation in our countries, there was little support that came, and yet we've watched the way in which the system has moved rapidly to support Ukraine as well. So that's another thing that we need to put on the table in our conversation as well. I cannot begin to predict what the future is going to look like, Wada. I know that Crisis Group's mandate is to do early warning and early action, but we are living in a situation between two world orders. Where it lands, we cannot know, but your youth forum gets to play a part in determining the shape and future of that new world order. It is multipolar because the existing order is not one that everybody buys into or subscribes into as well. We do have a number of revisionist states that are trying to change the script, that are trying to revise the way in which the international community is operating. They are usurping key values that I believe your forum holds dearly to, around issues of pluralism, around issues of freedom, and around issues of moderation as well. There's a failure also, I think, in understanding how we can unleash the potential of some of these key forums as well. So Wada, as you begin this journey 10 years on in trying to unleash the potential, I think one of the things that keeps me awake at night is that the tremendous focus on Ukraine means that we do not pay attention to other vital crises in the world. Afghanistan, Sudan, Ethiopia, just to name a few, managing the tensions around the South China Sea, managing the tensions that we saw in the last few weeks around Taiwan. Also, we haven't resolved the question of Iran, and also the risk of escalation in resolving the nuclear deal. So I know there's going to be a conversation, and I'm going to stop here, Wada. I think there's a number of questions that we need to answer over the next 48 hours. The legitimacy of the current multilateral order, the legitimacy of the institutions that claim to be working for today's young people, and how we are going to mobilize young people into the future to start rethinking the international order as it is. I'm also speaking a few weeks before COP27, Minister. The key question is how we're going to ensure that the agenda of COP27 speaks to unleashing the very agendas that you talked about. Thank you very much for giving me the platform. Thank you.